without further ado, Kevin, let's kick it off with strategy number 1.
All right. So strategy number 1 is standing out in the job market. And it's really just being different and being real as an insurance agent and an agency. And so how you be able to attract others to it. I think one thing that's really important is doing the research ahead of time. So you want to know, what is the going rate? It's a going rate in your area, and it's going to vary, obviously, where you're at. In some areas, it's 30,000, some 40, some 50, some maybe 60. If you're in an area of 60,000, you're advertising 30, you're clearly not standing out in the job market. And so you just have to do your due diligence in your research in that area, and then also find out, what other benefits are they offering? A lot of times we'll have an agency and they'll write a job ad and they'll forget some really obvious things that agents are looking for. They might talk about community involvement. There might be healthcare. It could be 401k. And even with healthcare, that's something that you can even do and check in your states and your guidelines. You might be able to just do a portion of it so you can, write that down. You could have workplace benefits that you offer in your agency, paid time off, all of these things that might seem a little bit obvious to you. You should definitely, write them down. So how else do you stand out? Is really having a compelling job ad. That is important, that you've got a great headline that's going to attract people to your headline without being too salesy. Like, people don't want to see, I'm looking for the slick salesperson, or what's that one, Jeff, that comes to mind all the time there? I'm trying to think of, but just using these slang terms of these sales ads. So
like
you don't
jargon.
want to do, what's that?
Like the jargon. The
Yeah, the hiring guru. Like,
Yeah.
we're looking for the sales guru. They don't want to do that. Keep it professional would be the point in standing out. This is a really big point. Another one is optimizing your job ad with keywords. So use those keywords that are really important, that the buzzwords for your job, you get a lot of exposure. The number one thing that I would say that I think that people forget to, or they rely too much on, is not sponsoring their job ad. Sponsoring your job ad is mission critical. Obviously, the deal traits will help you write a job ad. You can get it out there for free, and you'll get some exposure there. It does depend on your market. But by sponsoring your job ad, it allows you to set yourself above your competition. So as an example, with Ideal Traits being a star partner, $0 to $0, you're going to get a little edge. But Kelsey, I'll tell you what, there's another agent out there, and they're putting even $500 at the job ad. They're going to be ahead of you. And it's because Indeed likes money. They're a for-profit organization, and as much as they like Ideal Traits, because we give them so much great business, they like money more than us. And so if someone has $500, they're going to steal your candidates. And so it's up to you to, have that consultation with your lead rep. Make sure that you put money into your job ad. And when you have that combination of getting the most and the maximum exposure, is by putting dollars into your job ad. So that's really important. The last thing I'll talk about is providing a positive candidate experience. This is a really big one. It seems really obvious, but there's so much lack of it in the market. People are looking to hire, but then they get busy and they're not following up as they should on the leads that come in. So as soon as you find out that someone applied to your job ad, reach out to them personally, and I prefer a phone call. And just to get a little bit more information about who they are, let them know what the next steps in the process are, that they're going to be getting assessment. We don't want to take this opportunity to do a full-blown interview. That's not what we're trying to do. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, about making a logical decision instead of an emotional one. And that's why we want to get that assessment set out to them. But just make sure that you create that experience by getting back to them. If they're emailing you, email them right back. If you're going to reject them, then send them a letter. Send them that email back so that they know that they're no longer considered. I mean, you never know that they might be looking for insurance one day and be deciding between your agency and someone else, even if you don't hire them. And then the having a pre-interview process is important too. So these things are what can help you stand out in the market, optimizing your job ad, sponsoring your job ad, and then having a specific process that you can put into place for your candidates. Jeff, anything to add on that?
Well, I always tell my agents, Kev, is like treat your candidates like you would your customers. Because number one, it's going to be an overall better, positive candidate experience.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to better, more successful recruiting process. But I mean, in the world of insurance, Kevin, everyone you talk to in your community, I mean, come on, they could be a potential customer of yours, right? And that's what you want to do. You want to, provide financial support and protect everyone in the community. That's your goal. So I would just say that's how it should be. 10 years ago is different than it is today. People really care. And when it comes to like Google reviews and job board reviews, that's everything right now. You got to keep in mind that when candidates, after they look you up and they apply to your ad, or maybe beforehand, they're looking at your reviews. A lot of them are, and that's something you got to keep in mind. So it's really important to have, a positive candidate experience.
Great.
Absolutely. I mean, I love what you guys said about doing that initial phone call too, just giving them a quick call. I feel like you can just tell so much about someone just on how they handle themselves over the phone. You can really tell a lot in that short conversation.
Yeah.
And then exactly what you were saying, Jeff, I know when I was applying for jobs years ago, like the first thing I would do is go to Glassdoor and I would look to see what is the interview process like? How does this company treat their employees? So especially when you're in a hot market, making yourself stand out as like, a company that really cares about their interviewees. They're not even working for you yet, and yet you're making this experience enjoyable for them. That's great. It's really going to set you apart. So number one is standing out. What is number two?
So number two, it ties into number one, and it's selling your career opportunity. So Kevin talked a lot of ways of how to sell your career opportunity, but what I'm going to focus on is that agency culture, right? Your company culture is your personality of the agency, and it's a key aspect to highlight when you are starting your recruiting process. So when it comes to your job ad, your career page, your website, and of course your reviews, everything needs to be positive, number one. And try to be creative here. I know it's tough for the agents that are tuning in today. I talked to a lot of new agents. If you don't have an established agency, it is tougher to do this because you don't have employees that you can ask like, hey, what are some things you like about working here, right? Or what do you like about the culture? And they can tell you those things. And, even if you're a small family business out in a small area, there's reasons why a candidate will want to work for you. You want to look for other people that want to work for a small agency, right? You want to find that person who's a team player and, doesn't want that corporate environment. They want to come work for you. So to showcase that, you really want to put it on your job ad. And a couple things that I would consider doing, I actually just got off the phone with an agent yesterday, and what she's doing is she just did a video with her whole staff. She didn't have the budget to do a nice professional video, but she took a video just on her iPhone and she went around the agency talking about what they're doing, the new products that they're selling. She showed off the storefront, and then her two employees she actually interviewed, and they talked about what they like about the agency, why they like working there, and why they love talking to people in the area, the community involvement that the agency is a part of. So the video is something that they put in the Ideal Traits email template, which you can do. You can store that in your email templates, and they send it to every candidate that they're communicating with, so they can stay on top of mind. And then also, of course, have the candidate do more research, and they make it easy for the candidate to do research because they have a cool video to show them, short 3 to 5 minutes. So that's something that if you're not doing right now, that's something to consider doing, especially if you're in a really tough job market, a small community. Another thing to do is what Kevin was saying, describe that income potential. Describe what the job looks like. 46% of applicants, I should say, right now consider company culture as the most important aspect when they're looking for jobs. And that number is just increasing every year. So back to the company culture, highlight as much as possible on that job ad. And of course, ask your current employees for help if you have trouble designing that. Or of course, if you're using Ideal Traits, call our team. They can help you out too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good, Jeff, about that video. And it's something that anybody can do. I mean, you could create that video and, keep it short, just a 1-minute video, being able to just highlight and show them what they're going to look like when they're in the office, what it'll feel like for them.
And then sooner or later, have your own YouTube channel, right? We're not saying you got to be a social media guru, right? But just try it out. Again, especially in those small communities, I think it's super important to stand out.
Yeah, I totally agree. It sounds like a lot of the strategies that you guys have are very tech forward, especially with like a younger generation coming into the job market. You want to make sure that you're really on top of those, presenting yourself in ways that you are above the crowd when it comes to your technology and really connecting with them in that sort of way that they're familiar with.
Right.
So that's great. Do you guys have anything more to add on that note?
No, I think that's good.
Cool. So what would you say number 3 is?
Okay, here's number 3, is having a very consistent interview process. Doing the same thing every single time so you know what the next steps are and you'll be able to provide a very consistent experience. And it just helps for you and your team too to know, what's happening during the interview process. So let's talk about it. So number 1, and we spent a lot of time, would be placing a job ad. We talked about all the things you should put in there. If you need more help on that, again, you can call our team. In those who are current clients, we've got articles in there that can certainly help you do that. So you start with placing a job ad. Next, what happens is you want to send out the assessment, some sort of assessment. You want to get that in their hands to be able, so that you can identify which candidates that you want to get more into your system and have more ability to come work in your agency. We think that this is a big qualifier because if they don't have the correct characteristics and they don't have the right traits, then that's where the process needs to end. So after that, you've got a great assessment, you're feeling really good so far. We want to make this a logical approach and not an emotional one. So we are going to give them a call. We want to keep that positive experience going. Just a very quick call. Hey, what made you click on the ad? Why do you feel that you would be good for it? And let them hear their answer. Like you say, Kelsey, do you want to hear their voice? You want to hear their tone, how they sound. And then at that point, I would just cut it very short and just say, if they've taken the assessment, then what you can do is say, we can schedule an interview if you like that to come in for an interview. Otherwise, I would say the next part of the process would be to take the assessment. So in either case, reach out to them, have a little bit of an exchange, and get that assessment taken. After the assessment, it's time for the interview. We've got 2 choices here, depending on you and your agency. If you're doing Zoom interviews, we do have a Zoom option inside Ideal Traits, but you can use Zoom if you have an account for that, doing a virtual interview. I personally prefer in-person interviews, and so I would invite them into the agency, and I bring them in, and I start off real simple, and I just say, well, Kelsey, tell me a little bit about yourself outside of work. And the reason I set that question up is to really get their guard down. They might be a little bit nervous, a little bit tense, and I just want to learn really about them. Thinking about this, like this is going to be part of your family at work. And I ask them about, their sports and their background and anything that they want to talk about that really lights them up, that gets them excited, is important to me. I ask them, what they like to do in their free time. And so we'll create a great conversation around that. Next is to get into their background and to get into their ability and how you feel like they might be able to do inside the agency. We don't want to give them softball questions here. At this point in the stage, you're probably feeling pretty good. You've talked to them you've got an assessment out there, and you are probably more likely to think of them as giving you positive answers when, in fact, they might throw something, a little curveball. So don't overanalyze it to a point where you think that everything that they do is great. It's like, hey, are you good at sales? Oh yeah, I'm great at sales. Will you show up to work on time? Yeah, I'll show up to work on time. We got to go deeper than that during that interview. Jeff looked like you had something to say there.
No, it's just funny, right? I love when you do those because especially, when you feel like you can't find a good candidate, you just say, screw the process, right? Or you don't even adopt to a process because you're like, I can't find anyone. I don't use an assessment because I can't find anyone.
Right.
Well, again, it's one of those things where what happens when you do find that great person? Then you're like, oh yeah, come in. Like here's room. Let's do an interview. Okay. Are you good at sales? Yes. Are you going to be good in my office at sales? Yes. And so it's like you get super excited, and agents have admitted to me on the phone like they lost that person because they got desperate, and that tends to happen. The candidate might get thrown off by that too. They're like, man, this is just a walk in the park. What happens when you hire them, and then what's the tone like in your office then? So I might have skipped ahead there, Kev, but I try to use that example.
No problem. So we're at step number 4. We do the interview. And at this point, let's just assume that, I like everything so far. I think it's important that we have obstacles inside this process, inside your interview process, so that it doesn't make it just too easy. If you can just with no, it's like, hey, we're going to start you tomorrow. Just bring your pen. You're ready to go. They've got nothing into it. So we want some skin in the game here. So what I would do at the end of the first interview is I would say, listen, I think that, there might be possibilities of coming to work here. How do you feel about that? Yeah, this sounds great. What I want you to do now, Kelsey, is go home and think about it for 3 days. I really want you to talk to your family and your friends and your loved ones and whoever that you need to do, think, talk, pray about it, whatever it is, and then call me back in 3 days before noon. And I do one of these. Okay, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday before noon is when I'd like to hear from you. Now this gives them a deadline. Now they can call earlier if if you're really excited and but I really want you to think about it. And it's a little bit of a takeaway too. And because if they're just considering and they don't really know, I don't want them to come aboard right now. Like I want them to take all things into consideration. So they call back and they say, you know what, this sounds great. I'd like to come and work there. I said, well, there's a couple more steps. What I'd like you to do is to come on back in for a second interview. And on the second interview, this is when they're going to do a job shadow. This is important for them to not only see, maybe they saw you on the video, but actually watch it in person, be able to hear what's happening, and then they can interact and talk with the staff on the position that they're actually going to be doing. After that, they come on in and let them stay as long as they want. The longer they stay, the more interested they are. And if we really think about that, they're planning on staying for a career. No one should plan on staying up there only for 30 minutes. I mean, if this is going to be your lifetime of a career, you think you'd invest your time into it. So they come into my office, we sit down, I say, how was your day? How did you like it? And I say, oh, it's great. This is really for me. And then at that point, what we do is we let them know that I say, Kelsey, I told you in the beginning that we're only looking for top performers, and I'm just not quite sure you're the one. I said just like that. I'm just not quite sure you're the one. And at that point, there's only 2 things that can happen. Option number 1 is they say, oh no, I'm sorry, thanks for your time, and they leave. And option 2 is they start to fight back. And they start to tell you all of the reasons why that they would be great for your agency. I'm a self-starter. I'm motivated. I was, captain of this team. I was president of this club. And I know that this is for me. And that is like, and inside I'm going, please say that, be that person, because obviously I want a great staff member to be able to, when faced with an obstacle, be able to overcome it. And that's really what we're creating. So Kelsey, if you can imagine, salesperson, they're working in the agency now, and someone says, I'm just not sure if I want to go with your company or not. And then the person, oh, okay, thanks, bye. Or are they going to say, wait a minute, I don't know if you know the details. Let's go over this again. you had this liability, and we have this, and we've got this advantage, and we've got that advantage. And they start talking about all of the benefits in order to get them to switch to your agency. And that's a big deal. So we create that, they say the right thing, and at that point, we send them to go get licensed. This can be controversial. Some agents maybe don't like this approach. The reason why I like it is because I know when they come back in their license that they are dedicated to the position. They have spent all this time, they've literally spent money, and by doing that and spending the money, spending the time, they got that piece of paper, like they're going to be with you for a long time. Like it's really going to help. And that's at the peak of their excitement. And if it's hiring for a sales role, they have to be licensed anyways. So the converse side of that, and maybe some agents can relate, is they hire somebody and they sit in the agency and they're studying for the test. And it's taken them a month to do it, and it's just wasting time. I'd rather them just be at home and get that out of the way. Another key point is while they're getting licensed, they're collecting 50 deck pages. And so what happens is they walk into the office day one, and they got their stack of deck pages, they pass their test, and they're ready to go. We've told them, now we start to create in their mind it's a referral type business, and that they should be, talking to all of their friends and family about what their new career is and how that they can help them. And so after all of that, they get their license, they bring in their deck pages. That's when they get to start at the agency. So there are obstacles along the way. It's not an easy path, but what you'll find is you'll have much less fallout. You're not going to have people dropping off. They've got too much time invested, and you're preparing them for a successful career.
Absolutely. So true.
I have to chime in here real quick.
Oh yeah. What do you got to say?
Got me. Kevin, because I do some interviews here, not nearly as many as Kevin, but he had me do that strategy, right? And it can get so awkward for agents and for anyone interviewing when it's like the best interview is happening, but then you ask them at the end, you tell them at the end, like, I just don't think it's a good fit, or however you said it, Kevin. I've done that, and it gets so awkward because that person feels awkward after the interview, and you feel awkward. Yeah. But again, it's just like, stepping outside of your comfort zone, and it's like cold calling, right? Cold calling random people. I mean, it's awkward. So I really like that tactic, especially for the sales position. And I tell my agents, hang in there. It's going to get easier as you do it. Kevin, you probably don't even feel awkward anymore when you do it.
Well, and to take the credit is really to Chet Holmes. He wrote the book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. So there's a resource for you, is to, read that book. It's a really good one. And the tone is what really helps it. So I'm not telling you you're not the one. Okay. And so I'm really careful how I say it. So, I'm just not quite sure you're the one. And then I just pause in silence and then allow you to speak. And so you'll get some creative answers.
Yeah. I love how you're turning the tables. Before it was you guys selling yourself to this candidate. Hey, you want to work here, trust me. But now you're making them prove to you that they're worthy in a way,
I've had a person literally get up and be like, okay, and then walk out. And you're like,
right. Outside of the standard list of questions, you've got this final test that maybe they're not expecting. And it says a lot about who they are.
Yeah, right. True.
So all of this is great stuff. That's assuming that the candidate comes in for the interview, which kind of brings us into our fourth point. What happens when they don't show up, and how do you avoid that situation?
Yeah, number 4, avoiding the no-show is, that's something that's really important. And it really comes down to communication. Like, you have to stay in touch with these candidates. They're changing careers. They're looking for something greater than what they have. And I think we have to think about it holistically and not just about the person, but it's about their family. The career that you offer them could be helping their kids pay for their kids to go to school. It could be paying for their cars and their home and their food, and their family is depending on that. And so it's a big deal for them. And just because you have a lot of candidates, you don't want to miss out. And so by doing that is you definitely want to have them take the assessment stay in touch with them with the phone and communicate with them often as possible. The other thing that I want to add into, I'm going to give 4 a little bit of a bonus, another one. So I'll slip this in here. Maybe it'll end up being 6. We'll call it 4.5. Is always be hiring. Always be hiring. There's so many times that we feel content right after we hire, and we feel like we now have our team. Like now's the time. And I bet a lot of agents can relate out there to that, where they feel like that, they just filled that last desk. But what we don't know is that person, maybe their spouse gets a job in another city and they're pulled away from that role. Maybe somebody unexpectedly, another team member unexpectedly gets sick. Maybe another team member, maybe they just quit for some reason. So you never know what's going to happen. And by having the bench of candidates also gives you the power if you have to let somebody go someday. That's going to happen in your career. And sometimes people hang on to people too long because they just don't have anybody to replace it with. So we're like, well, this person's better than nothing. And it's because you don't have a bench of people. And so by passively hiring or actively hiring, there's 2 different things, but all year long, 365 days a year, you should be either actively hiring because you need somebody, or you're passively hiring. You're staying out there, you're in the community, you're talking to people that have connections that could help you and your agency and find the right people. You can have a passive ad out there that doesn't cost any money, just to be able to collect, stay in touch, and build those candidates so that when the time is in need, you are much more prepared than you would be. Because the time frame is longer than you expect. It seems like I'll place an ad, in 2 weeks I'll have my new hire, and we all really know realistically that it doesn't happen that quick. Your job and your goal as the agency recruiter is to eliminate the bad ones and leave standing the winner and the good one. So if you're doing it the right way, you're going to, as John might say, kiss a lot of frogs before you find the prince or princess, however.
Definitely. Jeff, do you have anything to say?
Well, it goes into our next strategy about modernizing your recruiting process, right? Prioritizing your candidate communication, it's everything right now. Especially if you're in a huge city and you got a ton of competition, Kevin. Think about the candidates that apply the day of. And then, sometimes I swear my parents own a business and they had this mindset too. And they're like, oh, well, we haven't hired in 10 years. We figured, maybe in 3 days we'll reach out so we don't act desperate, and we call them and schedule an interview. I'm like, guys, there's so much competition around you. You got to contact them right away. The best ones are getting contacted every day, right? And everyone wants the best candidates. Come on. If someone on this webinar would say like, hey, I want, not the cream of the crop, I would like to talk to them, right? I'd like to pick their brain more because everyone wants top talent. And if you're not staying on top of it, just spending 5 to 10 minutes a day in the morning or, later during the day, see who applied to Ideal Traits or get an ad out there. That's extremely important, extremely important. And it does create better candidate experience, back to that point we made. And then also it avoids the no call, no show. When you set up proper expectations and you have a process, there's proof in the pudding, right? Statistically speaking, you are going to get less no call, no shows. Absolutely. When you make them go through more obstacles, as Kevin was saying, and more of a professional process. Like with Ideal Traits, when, I was talking to agents, they're like, yeah, I had a couple candidates I was interested. And man, Jeff, this one didn't show up. And, I blocked out my whole hour when I could have been prospecting. It was really unfortunate. And then I noticed when I looked at his account, the person didn't take the assessment, the candidate. And that assessment takes 30 to 45 minutes, Kev. So you can tell when they just click apply, and it takes a half a second to apply nowadays, it's different than taking a 45-minute assessment. They're more interested. Now they did more blocking and tackling, and that candidate, they do value their time more than your time. So you got to think of it from their perspective. If they got reached out and they accepted another job, yes, out of courteous, they should contact you, but they tend to not to, especially when all they had to do was click the apply button. So think of these things when you do experience a no call, no show, and you, for some reason, aren't having a successful hiring practice. So another key thing I do want to go over is when you do have current employees that have been with you for a while, try leaning on them. I know Kevin does this, employee referrals. You can have an employee referral program, whether it's bonuses or even a chunk of money that you can compensate to them. Make everyone involved in this process, right? Get that YouTube video out there so you can send around. Get a career page out there. We just implemented a career page here at Ideal Traits. So what that means is your social media page can be on here, your career opportunities, all your open positions, your career, your company description. So this is where you put all your awards that you've won. If you're a brand new agent, you can talk about that, how you're brand new, you're ambitious, you're looking to grow as a team. You can talk about your company culture, all your community involvement, and then you can have a nice picture up at the top. Whether it's a cool picture of the location, a cool picture of everyone smiling at your office. These are things that give a great first impression, and we're getting feedback from candidates. I mean, a first impression is super important. So the company description, you can share that on your social media pages. You can keep that in your email signature. You can send it out to whoever. So, ways of modernizing is super important, and things that you probably should consider if you're trying to take your hiring to the next level.
Definitely. I'm hearing you guys talk about this whole process, and I can't help but hear similarities to how we kind of educate our agents on how to manage leads. You're going after different leads, prospects who may want an insurance quote. And like what you were saying, Kevin, like, yes, you want their business, just like you want this employee, but that employee also needs you. They're coming to you. They need your employee benefits. They're supporting their family, just like the people you're calling for policies. They need your coverage. So not losing sight of that kind of partnership aspect of it sounds like it's a huge, huge part of the whole hiring process.
Totally agree. I mean, at our agency, we work leads, and we bought thousands of your leads too. And you have to have a process. It's like with anything. You have to have a process specifically that is followed every single time, and you're going to get better results by doing that. And yeah, again, like your leads are, it's communication, it's getting a hold of them, it's staying in contact with them. Sometimes we get caught up maybe in this world we live in with the text and the emails and not that face-to-face type of interaction in the phone call. So don't underestimate those at all.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think, sorry, Kelsey, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I get really passionate about that because, when I talk to agents on the phone who haven't hired in a while, rightfully so, they tell me, isn't that a little unprofessional to shoot them a text message? And Kevin, call me unprofessional, but I do that with our candidates, and that's what I tell agents to do, because I tell you what, Kelsey, when you were talking about the Google reviews, right? If a person who is the recruiter and you got this company that you really want to work for, sure, you're going to check your voicemail, sure, you're going to check your email, but what are you going to check first? Our generation is checking the text message first. We're going to get that notification first. So I would say text is important, and it only helps you stay in touch with that candidate. Yeah. I don't know what your take is there, Kev.
Yeah, well, it's just use all means
right
of communication that you can. And you typically want to respond in the manner that they responded to you.
Yes.
At least to be able to start it off. But I'm still a big fan of getting them on the phone, hearing that voice.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah. And I think a crucial thing that you guys said that I just want to reiterate, because again, it sounded a lot like leads when you're, trying to quote your consumers, is keeping kind of a prospect pipeline just always in the works in the background. Yeah. Maybe you really like a candidate and you make them an offer and they go with someone else. That doesn't mean that candidate will never work for your company. If you have an opening a year from now, give that candidate a call. Hey, are you happy with your job? Like, come work for us. Like, we're still open to having you. Much like, hey, I know you didn't write a policy with us last year, but your renewal period's coming up. We'd love to have that conversation again.
What a great call that would be too. Like, if I got that call today, I'd feel, although I'm not leaving my company, it's not going to happen. But like, hey man, I'm just checking in with you. I know we talked a couple months ago. I want to see how things are going for you at Ideal Traits. What's new? I mean, that would be an awesome message.
Yeah.
And, Ideal Traits is different. We only sell to insurance agents, but insurance agents, that could be your customer one day or someone that would work for you. So I think it's always good to reach out to your candidates. I think it's just showing that, hey, I want to help the community as much as I can. I want to help you, and whether it's quoting you for your home and auto or coming to work for me. I mean, those are the two things that I want to accomplish and help you out with, especially if it's a top person that you really liked in that interview. So I completely agree with you, Kelsey.
Absolutely. So I know that's the conclusion of the 5 steps. I'm seeing we haven't had any questions come in, which tells me that we did a pretty thorough job. For those of you who have questions, I mean, you've got Kevin here who has 14 years of experience in the insurance industry, literally owns a company on hiring. So please submit any hiring questions that you have. We've got the industry experts here. I do have a question for you guys. How does Ideal Traits specifically offer support for agents who haven't hired in a while? Like, just in general, what do you guys offer your consumers or your customers?
Yeah, I mean, as far as support, we're doing webinars all of the time because we really want to, give back and to help any agency that's in hiring. As far as our company specifically, and if you have Ideal Traits, I mean, you can chat, which our average response time is under 1 minute for a chat response. You can email us, you can call us. We have onboarding webinars that you can do to have full tutorial. But overall, it's like we're in the business of helping others, and we want to help them succeed too. So give our ups a call. We'd be glad to help.
Very nice.
Oh, people, agents, especially this year, right? They're on a lot of webinars. So if you don't want to go on a webinar and learn that way, like Kevin said, chat us, call us. We have client success team that's eager to get on the phone, and they're ready to help you out. So any way you like to learn more about a software, we can help with. And I think you'll notice on the platform, it's pretty easy to use. But when you have questions, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys have a lot going on. I mean, you help with marketing your agency, like getting it out there in front of potential candidates. You've got job posting sponsorships. You have the test that the candidates will take. I mean, you have so much going on. Like, how do you help your agents stay organized?
I'll take this one, Kev. So in the platform, we're constantly developing it, making it the most user-friendly as possible for an insurance agent who's really busy. Because the grand scheme of things is agents want to hire talent. They typically don't want another software to learn. So we make it very user-friendly in that regards. However, as you use it more and more, you want ways of organizing, especially when you're getting more and more candidates applying and sending in the assessment. So we have hiring stages that you can manage the candidates in. And then, of course, staying in communication, one of the strategies we talked about. Super easy to do with Ideal Traits because we have the assessment that goes out. And if they don't complete the assessment, they get a 24-hour reminder and a 72-hour reminder sent from us. Not only that, you have email templates. If you want to send them a rejection letter, send them your own email templates. And then with a click of a button, you can move them to archive. You can move them to hired. You can even send an offer letter that has a preloaded template through the system. So we're always making it easy for you to organize.
Very nice. So it sounds like you guys are really taking care of like the nitty gritty and providing your customers with all the resources that they could possibly want to help them really get out there and attract the best candidates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of brings me to my last question. Like, are there any additional resources that you can offer the agents on our call today?
Yeah, so I know a couple people already chatted in. I must have said it in the beginning. So basically, if you just chat in your email, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you recruiting tip articles. I know a lot of people probably tuning in today are current customers, but even if you're not, I'm going to go ahead and send you some articles that we just created this year that is helping out agents really just become better at hiring. Strategies like we're talking about today, we're going to include and talk more because this subject's never going away. We want to provide you with all the resources we can, and I'll send you those articles and send you a couple other things to just help you become a hiring expert, whether it's now, always be hiring, right? Or if you have something going on and you want to get an ad out there in a couple months, then of course you have those articles there at your side.
Yeah, so one of the articles we'll send out, I think it's a really popular one, is 45 great interview questions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a strong one. It gives you a great basis to ask your prospects, your candidates about, a little bit more about them, so you can find out if they'll be a great fit for you. So another way, Jeff, they could do, maybe if they watch a replay, is they could just email you, jeff@idealtraits.com. And there's no obligation, just a gift to you that we'll send you some articles there.
That is awesome. Oh, perfect. Jeff put his email into the chat. And for those of you here today who aren't with Quote Wizard, but you're lucky Ideal Traits customers, we do have a promotion going on as well. If you're interested in signing up to receive leads from us, we're offering $50 towards your lead account when you sign up and mention Ideal Traits. And for those of you who maybe don't know much about leads or aren't sold on the idea of having that as a part of your marketing strategy, we do weekly webinars that go over marketing trends, agency budget allocation, all that good stuff, and why leads are a great choice for marketing as well, and how you can really bring it in, especially with those awesome sales employees that you've hired with help from Ideal Traits. And this agency education program that we've sponsored here today with Ideal Traits is an ongoing initiative that we have going on. So there's always more educational resources for you guys as well. So Jeff and Kevin, thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you have anything else to say, feel free. Again, we're still keeping this questions tab open in case any last minute questions come in, but thank you guys so much. This has been so informative.